Trent Thomas Sattler Homes. Thanks for joining me, man. Appreciate it.
Micky, thanks for having me on. Pleasure to be here.
I got you something, by the way. I was going to sneak this in.
Uh-oh.
Are you a whiskey guy?
How'd you know? Oh, what?
Woody Creek.
Woody Creek. Thank you, man. Colorado's best, huh?
Appreciate the time and appreciate you joining me, man.
Oh, well, we're going to have to enjoy that together later.
Deal.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you. I have. I have not had a bottle. I've tasted it before.
It's good stuff.
So happy to add that to the collection.
They're not sponsoring this episode or anything. So the best as organic. Well, thanks for coming, man. I appreciate it. So I wanted to have you on just to talk about your experience for the builder side. You know, obviously from the supplier side, we only get to see so much. We only we're essentially an extension of the sales process, but you guys really are at the forefront. You guys are doing all the work, customer service, all that stuff. So we'd love to hear kind of about you, what makes Thomas Sattler Homes different, award-winning Thomas Sattler Homes, I may add, and just kind of hear about your year, the challenges you're facing, how you find customers, that kind of thing. So tell me a little bit about Thomas Sattler Homes, about your role.
Yeah, a little bit about us. Thomas Sattler Homes has been building for just over 40 years now. Luxury custom home builder. Tom Sattler actually is a third-generation builder. Grew up in Iowa, swinging a hammer as a kid. We're on his dad, who was a builder, and came out here with his brothers. He probably wouldn't want me to tell you what year he came out here, but he actually started building homes up in Subic County, Eagle County, and which is where he lives today. But started focusing on the southern half of the Denver metro, and his passion was building luxury custom homes. So he'd seen both sides. He'd seen commercial. He'd seen, the production side of residential, like your Lennars, right? Your Tri-Points, those kind of different products. And I think, candidly, he was just a little bit bored and uninspired by the simplicity of a production build, and was really more so drawn to and inspired by the complexity of a custom home and what you can do. Literally, we can do anything with time and money, is what we say in the custom building world. So Tom started building customs. And he quickly began to realize there's a need in this arena of how to interface with the customer on the front end to have better control of the overall project, particularly when it comes to cost. So what he was seeing then, which is still the standard now, is the pricing model that most of these builders do would be what's called cost plus, right? So they come to you and they give you an estimate, which is usually a square foot cost estimate, highly inaccurate. And they say, yes, this is your price on the front end. They agree to the build. As they go through the build, they notice the prices keep going up and up and up and up and up, and there really is no cost control. Wherever it ends up, and that builder is getting his fixed percentage of whatever the price ends up being. So Tom Sattler was observing this going, okay, there's a lot of unhappy people at the end of projects because they're told a price on their front end that doesn't hold, and then they're paying however many hundreds of thousands more on the back end.
Yeah, it's not a small price either.
Right, and our arena it's considerably higher. So he was asking himself, there's got to be a better way. Like, how can we dial in the pricing and have better cost control from the onset? So he reverse engineered the process and said, what if I nail down the specs at the very beginning with the customer, down even to the design of the home? There's a lot of inputs that a home is consisted of that make up the parts of the home that account for the costs. And one of the biggest drivers is square footage. And number two is efficiency. And so Tom realized that he needs to be involved at the very beginning of the process, all the way to the architectural design, to make sure that the builder is giving counsel and advisement to the architect so that what we're designing is actually going to be in line with the budget goal of the customer. I can't tell you how many times, Micky, in my 7 years with Sattler, that someone would come to us and say, hey, I already started down the road with this architect, designed this plan, and then I chose my builder, had it priced out, and I found out I'm 200, 300, $500,000 over budget. We've had all those scenarios in recent years.
Wow.
And it's because they kind of have the process in the wrong order in our perspective. They'll start with an architect, design something beautiful, but they have no idea what the cost of that design is. Neither do the architects until they actually get a bid out by a builder. So that, in that example, that customer just wasted how much time and how many tens of thousands of dollars on architectural plans that we can't use because they can't afford it.
Right.
So Tom realized this need all the way back in the 80s and said, okay, I'm going to come up with a better system here. And if we can nail down the specs, the design, the selections, everything with the customer on the front end before we get further in the construction process, far before we even go vertical, then we can put together a roadmap and help guide them make good informed decisions with good real numbers, real data, speculate, right? So we're not just guessing.
Right.
And then the other thing that we do that we've never seen another builder do that's part of our system. So we do all the estimating on the front end, present that number to the customer, essentially run a feasibility study for them before they've even selected us as their builder. Mostly so we can help them understand, does this project make sense? Is the financial feasibility there? Can you afford to have the dream home that you want? And sometimes they're told no and can't move forward and don't like what they hear. We've seen some folks, they might go with another builder that kind of ear tickled them with a number, cost plus, and they'll go along with it. And then we see them 4 or 5 months later selling the lot because they can't afford to move forward. And they wasted all that time with another builder, with an architect, designing plans, going through all the time and effort to figure out specs, and then figure out they can't afford it and they can't move forward.
Wow.
So that's one of the distinctions we have. We do all that work on the front end with a fixed price contract. So we estimate those numbers up front. We present it to the customer. If it fits with their budget goal, we're a good fit for them. They're a good fit for us. We move forward together. During the pre-construction, before we even go vertical, we have 2 to 3 more estimating milestones where we take a look and say, okay, we started with a conceptual idea. We gave you an estimate. Here's where we thought that number is. Now, fast forward, we've begun the architectural design and we actually have plans. They're not full construction drawings, but at least we have some plans to work with. Once we have that first iteration, we'll then send that out to a handful of our key subs. They'll take that, provide quotes, get those numbers back to us. And that's our first benchmark to compare. Here's where we thought we were at our first high-level estimate. Here's where the first data comes in. How are we doing? Are we on track with budget, or do we need to start making some changes?
Right.
And that's the first stage at a design level from the architectural planning stage where you can make those changes. If something's inefficient, the house needs to shrink, we need to do more stacking, building more efficiently, that's our first opportunity to do that. As we continue forward, we figure out more specs with the customer. We take it forward to construction drawings. At this point, we've got more details, we've got more measurement. We can send that out now to even more vendors and subs. We'll collect those quotes. And again, we have our second benchmark. Comparing to our last 2, are we on track? And then we'll do that final time post-engineering. Once engineering comes back, we have now complete information. Every stick and brick is accounted for. We know real pricing. And that's usually the last exercise going through with the customer, just taking a look at everything. If there's anything that needs to be adjusted to keep the number down to where it needs to be to hit their budget goal. And then at that point, that is the final number. It goes into a fixed price contract. And the reason we really prefer the fixed price contract, we could go either way, but we believe strongly that that fixed price contract really is a better value to the customer, to the homeowner. It's more fair because it's giving them something they can rely on.
Yeah.
They know where it's going to go. We have some accountability. Everything, when we give that fixed price number, the builder has to make sure there's money to cover all those features, all that spec.
You're accountable at the
Work at those. And so you want a builder who's accountable, right? A builder who says, I have my whatever percentage fee and the number is whatever the one brings in. I'll be that, right? It's almost an incentive to the builder to let cost overruns go out of control and they make more.
Right.
It's not how every cost plus is set up, but a lot of them are.
That's great.
So we like fixed price because it gives a better service to the customer. And then anything that's volatile, Mickey, like remember during the COVID years here real recently where there was a lot of things, there were commodities that were all over the place.
Yeah.
Lumber, steel,
Yeah.
all kinds of things were jumping around.
Yeah.
Anything that moves like that, we put into an allowance. And that way, if the number comes in lower than what we anticipated for, it's like a debit credit system. And that money can go back to the homeowner, right? It's now just benefiting the builder and saying, we had a $50,000 allowance. Whatever this item is actually only cost 40. What happens to that 10 grand? Well, we think it's more fair to go back to the customer, right? We've already got money in there. It's a more ethical way of handling it, right? And then obviously, conversely, if an allowance goes beyond what we put in, there's some volatility or whatever, or it could be driven by customer selection choices, then they would pay the difference.
Sure.
So anything that's on allowance, we handle that way because it's volatile or selected by a customer, anything that's fixed, we have to have very tight estimating on. If we make an error in estimating a fixed item that's not on allowance, we eat that, right? That's our risk. So that's what keeps us sharp and keeps our accounting and estimating and everything on point. Because if we make that mistake, it's coming out of our margin.
Wow. That's amazing, man. I mean, and ultimately it's all for the customer. That's right. It may be difficult conversations to have up front, a lot of legwork up front before you even have anything signed, it sounds like. But at the end of the day, it kind of keeps everything rolling. It's transparent and it's for the customer. It keeps the process dialed in. I love it, man. I don't know if you came here today to sell a home, but I'll buy one from you. I'm the second I can. I'm sold.
We'd love to build for you.
Yeah. So, and obviously you build beautiful homes, amazing homes. I've seen them. Your customers are happy. Your trades love you. You're doing something right. Like this is working, and kudos to you guys, man. I mean, it's
thank you.
In this world, it's the builder world is challenging, as you know. There's a lot of ups and downs, a lot of volatility, especially now with the interest rates kind of fluctuating. So to have that reputation you guys have, the product, the end product, I mean, it's amazing, man. Kudos to you guys. So keep doing what you're doing.
We get appreciated, and a lot that you can relate to, because really it doesn't matter what business you're in, what industry you're in. If you run your business with integrity and you're really striving for excellence, you're gonna succeed. Yeah, that's the backbone of our core values at Sattler. Everything we do revolves around, first and foremost, integrity. Secondly, systems and process.
Sure.
Right? Just having those things dialed in and organized. So yeah, high level, that's pretty much what strongly distinguishes us from our friendly builder competitions. Process, systems, the way we do things, and really focusing everything on cost control, budget from the start. And going back to what you had mentioned just a minute ago, yeah, it's front loaded with a lot of work and pre-construction and pre-contract. But we do that because by the time we sign contract and then we have permit go vertical, you as a homeowner can just relax.
Exactly.
Yeah. The plane's on autopilot at this point.
Yeah.
And we're not going to have to hassle you and ask you, oh, we need a decision on this paint color by tomorrow and an on-site visit to look at this and that next week. We've already done the hard work. So you can just relax, get updates, see the progress as we go along, knowing that there's not a fire drill tomorrow because we forgot something.
Right. That's great, man. That's awesome. So you've been there 7 years.
Yeah, going on 7. Yeah, this will be going into the 7th year.
That's great. You've probably seen a lot of changes in the industry just in general in the last 7 years. And we were touching a little bit on that before we started. Just, the pre-COVID years, the COVID years, the post-COVID years, the low interest rate years, and then the interest rate boom years, and now kind of the, I think, somewhat stabilizing years. So maybe talk about that, just kind of what you've seen from a customer perspective, what the customer's like, what things they're asking for that, 7 years ago that are different now, from a trade perspective, just kind of the things you've seen change in the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. You're so right, Micky. There's been a lot of change, a lot of volatility, especially during the COVID years, and a little bit of a tailspin after. For the most part, that's kind of tampered down and recovered at this point. But it has brought changes, and it's made the industry adapt. It made every industry adapt in different ways. For our industry, I would say we went from really strong kind of consumer confidence and optimism. We saw, discretionary spending was much higher before. And then we get into the volatility period where COVID begins, and we saw this kind of pent up effect for a minute there, where people are in their homes, they're staring at their homes, they're realizing, there's so many things about this home I don't like, I want to change. So it's interesting, the remodel sector of the industry was exploding during that time.
Yep.
And then we had, coupled with the rates, before they really started to change and hike up, you had that real strong churning heyday for builders. Both production and custom is very, very, very strong and robust. And then as we start to hit kind of those corrections, it's interesting because we always see it upstream in our industry. The two kind of data points you look for are going to be land sales, what's happening with lot sales at custom home build communities. That's always an indicator of what's coming in the market with changes. When they start to slow up, that tells us what's coming and how to posture accordingly. The other would be, the service guys, the trades. Upstream would be excavation, would be a good example. We look at those guys, and when they're getting slow, when they're starting to reach out to us, sending us letters, really shopping for business, we know they're getting hungrier. We know that things are slowing down, and we'll see sometimes even them getting a little bit more willing to work with us on price, get more competitive bids. So you saw definitely some of that here in the last year, notably probably from the summer on. Spring, we had a little bit better activity.
A little more slowdown.
A little more of a slowdown. Yeah, so it causes us to have to adapt, right? And adapt your model. We recently just hosted a mastermind meeting at our office last week.
Oh, wow.
To a mastermind group Tom Sattler's part of. And the focus of the presentation was exactly this. It was business model and adapting, right? And in every business, every industry, we deal with this. And that's how we maintain our competitive edge. So for us, it's interesting. We've even recently been going through another round of an audit on our internal processes and systems and saying, okay, what are the areas we can identify where we need to improve efficiency, improve productivity, improve cost control, improve our tech integration.
It's great.
And real excited about our new teammate, Steve Ops Manager, who you got to meet. And
yeah, we're excited about him too.
Yeah,
he's a good guy.
Oh, he's phenomenal. Total renaissance.
He's going to have to give us some strokes out there on the golf course, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
He was sandbagging a little bit. I asked him what he typically shot. He's like, yeah, I'm casual. And we start talking more. I'm like, I'm going to need some strokes.
Yeah. I'll be your golf cart guy. There you go. I can't swing like you guys.
I'm all over the place.
It's part of the fun.
Yeah, but those are great, man. Yeah,
but yeah, he's bringing in some solid changes to help us adapt and just be leaner and smarter and more efficient.
Yeah,
and tech is always a driver when there's new things that come online that help us to integrate and be more productive. Cut down time and expenses in our process, be it pre-construction, be it sales. There's always an opportunity for improvement. So we're going through another audit, like I said, now just to identify those areas, and we're excited about some of the new changes we're making to implement just to improve our customer experience, to improve overall how we function with these systems and processes to make sure they're dialed in as efficient as they can be.
That's great. Super smart, man. One of the quotes I really that really stuck with me my entire playing career, being an athlete, was nothing good comes from comfort zones. And, doing those self audits like you guys are doing, they're difficult. It's not easy. Most of the time you don't want to do them, but they're necessary and they make you better at the end of the day. So I think that's amazing that you guys are willing to do that.
Oh, absolutely. It's all part of it. It's essential.
Yeah. And so part of that, I'm curious too, like, I'm sure like how customers find you has changed, now with the days of social media and, whatever the case is. So how do you guys typically find clients? Is it through social? Is it through the designer? Is it,
Yeah. So sales attributions, every year, those will fluctuate a little bit between, you get a lot of just organic SEO website forms.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Okay. And then you'll do some digital marketing. And we've worked and experimented with just about every medium there is. Yeah. Right. Print, radio, just about every vehicle you could think. And then of course we audit those, look at where we're getting traction, where we're not. What's interesting about today's target customer in the luxury home building world is you're seeing, of course we have boomers. We're seeing a lot more Xers and older millennials.
Wow.
Right. Lately, probably about 3% of our projects are older millennials. So that changes, right? Because we're reaching them different ways. And that's predominant. You're getting them on SEO, but you're getting them on social media as well. Whereas our target customer and the boomers, those guys are hanging out on Facebook a little bit, but you're not going to see them on Instagram, TikTok, any of the other majors.
Yeah.
So it does change in how you reach them there. But we're probably seeing about 30% millennials, probably almost equal Xers, and then the rest would probably still be the boomers. Boomers, obviously your empty nesters. We're seeing some that are kind of planning on, hosting family for extended periods of time, or kind of a carve out that they anticipate some kids are going to come back and live with them for a bit. So that's been interesting to see. Multi-generational living, we're still seeing a fair amount of demand for that. Some of that's probably been driven more culturally on at least 2 or 3 projects I can think of recently.
Interesting.
And the other interesting thing is going back to like rates, it's really interesting how many cash buys we've been seeing. And I think that's just speaking to how insulated that some of our target customers are, despite, because they don't need rates, they don't need lending, they're not shaken by, inflation and some of the economic fraud.
It's a great time to be buying things, during those higher, periods like that if you have cash, because you're, like you said, insulated and you have more leverage for sure.
Yeah, and the discretionary income's there that they can just do whatever they want.
Yeah.
So that's been interesting. We've been seeing more of those. Probably almost, I'd say probably 30% have been all cash.
Wow.
Lately. So that's an interesting shift, because 5, 6, 7 years ago, I wasn't seeing that.
Wow.
Money was cheap. Everybody had some sort of a loan. So that's another kind of dynamic that shifted since the markets have shifted. Yeah. So we'll have to see what happens here. We're hearing kind of rumors about maybe another 25 basis points or something like that coming up. We're also hearing about, it was going to be 5 cuts coming up in 2025. Now maybe it'll only be 3. So we're going to have to see how those go. But all my networked folks on the banking side with our approved lenders, it's been a challenging time for them.
Yeah.
In this last year.
Yeah.
And we do see that kind of cascade and spill over a little bit into our industry.
Yeah.
So those are some of the changes, Micky, that we've been seeing, at least on the financial side. And in terms of how the industry has adapted overall to like the COVID instability, I think we're pretty much almost back to normal at this point. Occasionally I do see some kind of like discontinued, items that happen frequently still in things like tile and decorative lighting. Beyond those, I think we're actually pretty much back to normal. Yeah, you're not seeing issues with, oh goodness, things like appliances. You had a lot of different things during COVID years that were being aged shoddily, and kind of rumors about, well, did they know that the quality control wasn't there and they were still putting it out just to be able to continue to fulfill orders? We're just seeing a lot of weird things that aren't typical. Like, I can tell you consecutive, air conditioning units being defective and not working that are brand new.
Can't have that.
No. No, you can imagine how unhappy the homeowner at us are when that happens. So we were seeing things like that we knew were part of like the COVID, just
trigger around. Yeah.
Yeah. The pain points that were still there. But I think most of those issues have pretty much gotten normalized, and thankfully we're not having to deal with.
Yeah, that's great. That's great to hear. So I know, from my perspective on the home gym, health and wellness side, COVID really ramped a lot of that up. Not just with that, I guess, even just with personalizing your home, right? People wanted to cocoon more, almost, spending more time in there. They want to invest, they want to spend more money. So, from like design perspective and, I don't want to say trend, but trend perspective, like what kind of things did you see change with people's floor plans? Like, were they asking for, less rooms, maybe more open spaces, more home gyms, more health and wellness centered stuff, more yards, that kind of stuff? I mean, have you shed some light on that, like the changes you've seen?
Yeah. COVID had a lot of people, like you said, cooped up in their homes, starting to think about, man, I really wish I had this. Yeah. Or, man, we really hate this and would like to redo that. So with respect to RoomBLDR, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think, when we met during the COVID years, that's pretty much the need and the demand that RoomBLDR was born out of. Yeah. Of all these people like, hey, my gym is closed, but I want to work out, I want to do stuff. I really wish I had a sweet home gym set up. Yeah. So in that regard, we saw definitely an increase of home gyms, of main level guest suites, casitas, mother-in-law, multi-generational type living. Those are probably the two biggest, and as well as folks wanting to kind of update and modernize like a home office, a home study, better AV packages. We were seeing some more interest there. Just responding.
That makes sense. You're going to be at home. You want the ultimate TV setup and movie theater setup. Yeah.
And a lot of folks adapting to working remotely during that.
True. Right. You need faster Wi-Fi, you need better lighting, that kind of stuff.
And then they get used to it because they may or may not be heading back to the office. Yeah, I've seen several of those where like, well, during COVID, we all went remote, and we just decided as a company policy, we didn't need the office anymore. So we're all remote. I've got customers who told me that. Consequently, we're putting a little bit more effort into their home study.
Yep.
And that's kind of the trend that appears to be here to stay, really. I mean, you get to our price point of luxury custom home building, $2 million and up, they want that. Most of these people are, I mean, they're all obviously successful and have a higher net wealth to afford these homes, but a lot of them do seem to either work from home or own or run their business and need to have that home office component too.
Yeah.
So we've been seeing those. Home gyms have been picking up in terms of size and features. I would say 7 years ago, almost all the homes we do have home gyms. It's just a standard. They were more basic years ago, right? You'd have a lot of people who are like, oh, I don't require much. Maybe just a mirror wall and some gym flooring. And they're not real serious worker outers, like you or me. That would be the typical. But lately, especially with like the elder millennials, they want a serious home gym.
Yeah.
They want pretty much everything they can get at an actual gym at home.
Yeah.
So they're doing all the fun stuff that you guys do, putting the backing in the walls so they can set up like a really elaborate wall-mounted system or a squat rack or whatever their thing is. So we're seeing more of that with the younger demographic, which is kind of fun. And then they're taking it further sometimes and saying, hey, I want to have, some other fun options associated with this gym. I might want a dry sauna here and a cold pool here. Kind of that whole, which is definitely more of a millennial type of trend. So it is funny that we're seeing those things now start to kind of complement that home gym.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. It's fun. Like you said, it's cool. It's unique. It's different. It's nothing against, decorating, but it's not for me necessarily. That's for my wife to do. But the home gym I love, it's just different stuff. It's fun stuff. The flooring even, you can get down to that level and just pick something out that's cool and different. And
right.
Credit to the manufacturers, the brands, they've really picked the innovation up in the last few years too. So that's helped a lot of that too. There's a lot of cool stuff you can get in your home. So yeah, it's a fun room to design now. And we're seeing that trickle down into the other spaces like wellness.
Oh, and it's so fun because now we can actually see, really fun, flashy marketing videos, that obviously I can appreciate instead of just like a basic gym and you just threw in your Peloton and that's it.
Yeah.
Now we actually have a space that's like really functional, really practical, and just kind of helps sells the value of the home. So I love that. And, we've also been seeing, again, I would probably attribute this a little bit to COVID, just like surging demand recently for things like golf simulators.
Yeah.
We've done sims and I would say they're noticeably picking up in interest and demand just over the last 2 years. Are you seeing that on your end?
It's amazing, man. Yeah. I mean, I think I was telling you a little bit about this. It wasn't really on the plans for us when we first started this. And then immediately we saw the need, right? I mean, we would see these floor plans and there's a fitness room, there's the rec room, and then there's the golf room. And so we saw the need and customers asking about it and wanted to learn more about it, about how to install them, about everything, right? So we luckily caught the wave really early on, and it picked up a couple really good brands and lines and installers and whatnot. And now I'd say it's one of our leading categories, if not our leading category, dollar-wise, because they're higher ticket. And certainly in the homes that we work in and that you work in, where people have the space, it's up there with requests now with, I don't want to say the top requests if you have kind of an open space, but it's probably top 2, top 3 requests that we're seeing. People have the space. It's no longer the theater.
Right.
It's like the modern theater now, like where that used to be every home had a theater. Now it's a golf room.
Yeah. And speaking, we can continue on trends because here's an interesting update on that too. Same for us, closed theaters went out and that was pretty big in like the early to mid 2000s.
Yeah.
Then that kind of cycles out of the trend and it's more of like just the open concept, right? And that was what most of our homes have been for a handful of years, just like that kind of open rec area in the lower level, keep it all open and just, not disjointed or closed off.
Yeah.
Lately, it's funny, and I don't know if this is cultural, but we're starting to see, not many, maybe like 15, 20% are specifically requesting closed theater and really trying to bring it back to simulating that movie theater experience.
That's interesting. I wonder if it has to do, there's the theater basically doesn't exist anymore, right? Like, so I wonder if people just don't have an option to go to the theater anymore and now they're going back to the home. That's interesting. Yeah.
To us, it's almost like, is that also part of one of these derivatives of COVID where they kind of go to theaters, but like the people that enjoy that experience and want to simulate it, well, now they're starting to recreate and put in our homes.
Put it back in there.
Yeah. We've only seen, I'll tell you probably 2 or 3 within our recent projects within the last 5 years that want closed. That's probably more than that. But most of them are open. But it's just kind of funny to see how those trends kind of, wane back, slow.
Exactly. Yeah. 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 So that's you have the, frontline perspective on your end, right? Like seeing that, year after year, just with the changes and what's happening. So that is super interesting. I'll say with cold plunges, they're super marketable.
Oh.
So if that's, maybe we could collab on something like that where, if you're getting a lot more requests with people wanting those, we could put together a cool video because they're super marketable, right? Like,
oh yeah,
we'll throw you in one of those tubs for like 30 seconds and try to form sentences.
I like cold plunging. Yeah. Now, admittingly, I went through my cold plunge phase where I was very disciplined, got all inspired by Wim Hof, and went to his workshops. And I was doing it for several years there. I'd go to Maxwell Falls at Evergreen in winter. Oh, and get into the water there for 10, 15 minutes.
The organic cold plunge.
Organic. Yeah. So I loved it. But it's funny, again, coming back to our target customer demographic.
Right.
Again, probably roughly a third or so right now are elder millennials. And when you look at the market research on that demo, it's really interesting. Millennials collectively, they care a lot about achievement and success and discipline, health and wellness. And you look on any of the socials to see how marketable those cold plunges are. That's all people, millennial age.
Exactly. Exactly.
So yeah, it'd be fun to collab on those because you know what people miss initially. A lot of those were just like the kind of, I don't know what it's like, a horse watering, bucket that you could pick up your burdocks and you fill it up.
Exactly.
Ice, and that's your tub outside, pretty rough and crude. Well, now they're getting more comfortable and sophisticated indoor ones with a chiller circulating. So you can kind of incorporate into that home gym, home sauna type of setup.
Yeah. You don't have the pain of like having to, put new water in all the time or dump it out in ice. And you can keep water in there as long as you want if it's yours. If you're using it with multiple people, it's a little different, I guess. But
right, I guess
there's even like cleaners now that you can get integrated into the cold plunges if there are multiple people using it and you don't want to change this water all the time. So the technology is definitely improving and getting better.
That's cool. And I think that kind of lends to both the health and wellness piece and the exercise and fitness piece, again, with that target demo. And I love it too, because that appeals to me. I mean, I am in that demo, right? We're elder millennials, but I love that piece. When I get done working out, yeah, like I kind of like spa time. Totally appeals to me too. So I think that's going to be a trend we'll continue to see as we get more and more of the younger millennials, being able to afford more and more house. Yeah, Gen Z we'll see, but at least of the millennials, we got a good solid runway for at least another 5-8 years.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't think it's going anywhere. Yeah. And so, forgive me for not knowing this, but how many homes? You guys don't build many homes a year, right? You see?
Yeah, we're a boutique builder. So at times, in our history, we built well over 300 homes, probably about 40 different communities now around the Southern Denver half in the metro area. And there was a time where Tom Sattler realized, where his diminishing returns were, where we were plateauing as a company. He could be doing 24 homes simultaneously. Huge overhead, huge teams, a lot going on.
Not doing customer service.
Exactly. And as you get spread thinner, your bandwidth depletes. Yeah. And so he was realizing, you know what? I don't want to be on this volume. For my business model, my overhead, and where I generate the best profit, and I have some sanity doing it, is right around this like, 5 to 7, ultimately maxing out at 12 projects a year. So that's where we cap off between pre-construction and active construction projects. 12 is where we hit the maximum, and then you're on a waiting list until a slot opens back up. And this is, again, one of those adaptions we realized years ago. To your point, integrity and excellence in everything we do, well, we can't serve the customer at our best and maintaining that core value if we don't have the depth to process the systems and know where we need to be. And before, it just wasn't aligning and working if we were doing 24 simultaneously. Now we dial the back because that's where the sweet spot is. So yeah, we're a boutique builder, and we take pride in that. We're never going to try to be a production builder and go to that volume. We're happy with where we're at.
That's great. Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. So what do you do to stay healthy, man? What are your workouts like? You're obviously in pretty good shape and active and healthy. What do you do?
I'm just trying to maintain. It's funny with Colorado being like one of the leaders in that national poll every year of the healthiest states.
Yep.
The more I travel around the country and spend time in other places and cities, the more evident the comes.
For sure.
Which is a funny thing.
Yeah.
Even when you go to the gym in these other places or out on trails, you don't see nearly the volume of people we have here.
It's like ingrained in our culture and our brains here. Like, I don't know. Yeah.
And you're a native guy. You grew up here, so did I. And I think part of that is we would just grow up wanting to go do fun, cool things. Go for a trail run or a hike or mountain bike. Skiing, doing your thing. So part of that I think is a little bit baked in. But I'm just a guy who tries to hit the gym 5 days a week. And get some cardio, get some fun in, play some sports, and then love self-care. I probably spend too much time in the hot tub and sauna, but the older I get, the more I'm just trying to relax.
I hear you, man. That stuff matters, man. I mean, eventually it's going to offset where now you're doing more of like the recovery and the preventative stuff. Already there. I'm with you. I'm already there. Stretching more than I've ever sketched in my life, yoga.
You get those injuries at 39, 40 going, oh, they don't go away. I did in my 20s.
They don't go away. Exactly. Yeah. The Addy getting old sucks.
What about you, man?
Yeah, same deal, dude. Just kind of try to stay even. Like, if I can get 3 or 4 good workouts in a week, I'm good. Try to play basketball or volleyball on the weekend still, to just kind of do something different. And
nice.
That's not just like a me by myself session. Try to do something where it's like a couple hours of like intense,
right?
And then I can just keep eating how I eat and not feel too bad about it. But definitely more on the wellness side now, the recovery side, stretching, pre and post stuff, and cold plunging, that kind of stuff.
This conversation is somewhat lighting a fire for me to get back to the consistency of cold.
There you go. Worked out for something, huh?
I need to.
Well, cool, man. Yeah, I don't really have anything else for you today. Appreciate you coming out, man. Really means a lot.
Yeah.
Keep doing what you're doing, man. You guys are killing it. It's cool to see, and appreciate your time, man.
Oh, we appreciate you, Micky. We love working with you in RoomBLDR. Can't champion you guys enough. So glad we met. Been happy to be working with you, and look forward to more together.
Thanks, Trent. Let's go enjoy that whiskey.
All right, bud. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Micky.